Third Degree Net Podcast.
Well, hello there, FC Dallas Curious fan. Welcome to another episode of Third Degree, the podcast. I think this is number 38?
86.
Oh, 86, sorry. Hold on, let me do that over.
38, dude.
I don't know.
Where have you been?
Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast.
Well, hello there, FC Dallas Curious fan. Welcome to another fun-filled edition of Third Degree, the podcast, number 86, I'm reminded. Hi, how are you? My name is Peter, and with me today are my two good friends that love to talk all things Football Club Dallas. It's first, our lovely Brit, somebody who parks really far away from his home, Dan Crooke.
It took me 3 minutes. What's wrong with you?
It took you way longer than 3 minutes from when you told us you were parking and coming in. It was like 10 minutes later.
Well,
we were worried about you.
I had to get a microphone and my headphones and get everything together. You know, that takes time. Perfection isn't instant.
All right. Well, you know.
Someone could probably say who does perfection. We obviously don't.
All right. Well, I hope you're doing well, Dan. I hadn't spoken to you in a week.
It's been a crisis. Absolutely great.
All right. Kick ass. And, of course, your hero, my hero, everybody's hero, editor, founder of thirddegree.net, the good, now 50-plus years old, Buzz Carrick. Hello, Buzz.
Hey, Peter, how are you today? I actually have a little story for you guys to start the podcast. It's short.
Hold on. I got to sit down in a circle in Indian style. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, it's not a FC Dallas related story, but my wife's birthday was last night, and we went out to dinner. And she got the enjoyment of her first ever experience of the ammunition being sold out of the back of the pickup truck in the restaurant parking lot.
Where did you take her? Golden Corral?
Oh, no, it's just a steakhouse. But you know how it is in Texas, where every once in a while you'll see some dude in a big old fancy Mercedes buying ammo from some dude in a pickup truck in the parking lot of the restaurant. It happens. It's Texas.
Well, there is an ammo shortage, so that doesn't surprise me. Hey, by the way, your wife turned 18 this year, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you how old. 19. She's 19.
Okay.
I'm not telling you how old she is on the podcast. Oh, my God.
No, that was really just more of a cradle robber joke. But anyway.
Yeah. All
right, well, here we are upon the threshold of another MLS playoff season. We all know how this goes, don't we, Buzz?
Yeah, unfortunately, as you tweeted out that awesome rendition, I don't know who made it, of the year after year playoff failures by FC Dallas. It's par for the course around here.
Yeah, it's somebody over on Big Soccer that goes by 24/7 Burning or something like that, and he had written out a year by year chronological order synopsis of each playoff results. And he wrote it in a very colorful style. It's a little R-rated. But, man, oh, man, it hits home. But you know what? This is our year, right? Things change this year, Buzz. Come on. Let's be positive.
Well, there is always a chance. Maybe this is the year. Maybe Lucci's going to get it done. You know, had to win it all on the road. I don't know if it's ever happened, but maybe it'll be the first time. They did win the Open Cup all on the road. They were the first team to do that, so...
Wait, I thought if they win this game and somebody else wins their game, isn't there a chance, like a sliver of a chance, they host a playoff game?
Peter, if LAFC wins, then they're a lower seed than Dallas, so Dallas would have a home game against LAFC. So that's basically the only way that I know of.
I would love to go to one more sparsely attended, feel like it's my very own home game before this year is out. That'd be kick-ass.
That would be a lot of fun. I'm not so sure that, given that we're starting this thing up again in, what is it, early March, I think, that we're doing it. So we might still be sparsely populated by then.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, maybe I'll get another opportunity next year. Yeah, and the probably on the downside of all of this is when we were talking about this game in the previous podcast, we were all working under the perception that Portland was going into this game a little underhanded because of international call-ups and quarantine times for COVID. And since then, it kind of sounds like things have turned the favor of the Timbers.
Well, I think Dan has more concrete information about that than I do, but it's when you have a 10-day gap, people get healthy, and there's been some developments on the front with international players coming back where you can pay to charter them back from international games. Like I know, for example, that Dallas could have done that with Philippe and have chosen not to, which is not surprising with the backup goalkeeper. But I think Dan probably has more concrete info on that.
Yeah, I mean, the league's given them the option. Really, they realised that LAFC would be without 4 players and went, oh God, we need to fix this. Our precious playoffs. The talk from the Portland side is that Andy Polo and Felipe Mora won't be back. But, why would you give the opposition the information even if they were? FC Dallas has been burned by it before. For the Real Salt Lake game, they prepped for for not playing against Albert Rusnak. RSL had said, he's not going to be available because of the quarantine period. And then they chartered him back. And the league, interestingly, cut the quarantine period by a day. And he was able to make the game by like 3 hours or something stupid.
Just to clarify, so what you're saying is that Portland continues to say those 2 players are not going to be here, but there is a mechanism in place that, in fact, they could show up because of a charter flight. Did I understand that correct?
Yeah, completely. There's a few things like there's a few like variables that we don't know. Like Buzz had talked about Felipe. Well, Felipe, even if they did charter him back, he would probably have to quarantine because his Brazil under-23 team had a small outbreak. So there's a couple of players around the league where there's been outbreaks and stuff in their national teams, and they definitely have to do that quarantine still.
Okay. And then I think LAFC, Brian Rodriguez, I think he just actually ended up testing positive on his way back from Uruguay. I think I just saw that before we started recording.
Yeah, those guys have to quarantine in the country they're in. They can't even come back if they got exposed and had direct exposure or if they got it themselves.
All right, so if I'm remembering correctly, when we talked about this last week, Portland was on 6, 7, 8 guys they thought they were potentially missing for this game.
It was 8,
Was it? So do we have a handle? And assuming those 2 guys, let's assume that Savarese is bluffing and those 2 guys are coming. What do we really feel like the number is now for Sunday's game?
The number they're working with is just at the minute is those 2, and then the 2 that were out all the season, which was, let me butcher his name. It was Yaroslav Niezgoda, who is their DP striker I think he's actually still their top scorer. And Sebastian Blanco, they both got ACL tears. Jeremy Ibobese he was out with a concussion. It looks like he's back now. He missed 5 games. So if Mora's out, he's going to be their striker. If not, he'll be playing on the right wing opposite Yimi Chara. But I'm not sure who they were supposed to have out last week, but right now it's just really the 2 long-term injuries and potentially the two internationals.
Well, Julio Casante was a week and a half ago was out with an ankle problem, but he apparently has recovered. And then Darian Asprilla had the knee surgery back in May, but he must be back because he's not apparently listed anymore. And then Blake Bodily, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, was also questionable, but now I guess is recovered too. So they have almost everybody back but those 2 guys, and then of course the internationals.
Well, when we also talked last week, Buzz, you had made the case that you were a little bit concerned about Lucci overthinking this and doing something a little wonky in terms of lineups or personnel, a.k.a. the Oscar Pereira syndrome.
Yeah.
Do you have any different feelings about that now? Are you getting any sense that you have an idea of what the lineup's going to be for Sunday?
I do have a different sense, and my different sense is that I am now even more convinced that that's true. And that's so that's the change, is that I'm now 100% convinced that Lucci's going to Lucci. and that
So it's essentially he's going to start North Texas Soccer Club in the game, is what.
Well,
just
it's not going to
shock them all.
be it's not going to be that bad, but I would at this point, and nothing's written in stone, of course, because Lucci does change late compared to other coaches. But given that they've had 2 weeks to work on stuff, that means we've had 2 weeks of chatter coming through the grapevine of what they've been doing. So I am now completely convinced, and of course nothing's for sure, but I'm completely convinced that Ryan Hollingshead will indeed be your left wing, and that Johnny Nelson will be left back. And the reason that is, if I can just try and put myself in Lucci's shoes, is it's arguable that their best road performance of the year, and I think it's pretty much true, was that Nashville game. And so the idea is to have that mentality, and so I'm going to predict what I would call a mid-block, which is not going to be the high press, because it's hard to high press with Hara anyway. And if you have Ryan up there, Ryan's not really a presser. So you're looking at more of a mid-block sort of situation like they did with a really good performance at Nashville. So that's my Lucci tinkering that I think is going to happen.
But that doesn't mean he's shifting to like a 3-man back line and playing Ryan as a winger.
No, it'll be the same 4-2-3-1 we've seen of late, which I'm pretty sure will mean Ricarte is that deep lying 8. They're going to keep that. That works really well. And that means Jesus will be your high 10, more of the Ostracker style that we like him to do, with Ryan as the left and Barrios on the right, of course, and Hara. And then Brisson will be the other person that will continue at center back. As I said before, like once you had this problem with Reto that got Brisson that job, Brisson has consistently performed up until the last game when everybody stunk, so that's a throw out the window. So Brisson will keep that spot, and then Jimmy's back, of course, so he'll be in. Thankfully, I think I'm very convinced that Brian Acosta will not be healthy enough that Lucci will think he can start him. So you'll end up with the same shape, and Acosta and Pico will come off the bench, and just sort of as you've seen lately. More than likely on the road, if they're in it, like it's a tie late, or even if they're up a goal late, then you'll see that 3-man back line, whatever, really 5-4-1 low block, kill the game thing that they've been doing lately on the road.
So real quick, Brian Acosta, do we ever find out definitively what his injury was?
It's the same hamstring problem.
Okay.
He just sort of re-aggravated it. Lucci said in a press conference. They don't list it in the media thing, but Lucci mentioned it in a conference call. Was it 2 weeks ago, Dan? I think he mentioned that.
Yeah, it was.
So, Dan, how do you feel like that lineup that Buzz is talking about for Lucci pairs against what you perceive will be the starting lineup for Portland?
I think that kind of actually plays positively for Dallas in a way. Portland have that 4-2-3-1, and as always, as the maestro performs, so does Portland. Looking more defensive in your back four is always going to be a good thing to shut down Valeri and try and limit options on the wings. Yimi Chara has been their big thing on the left wing, and right wing's up in the air. So the big thing is it wasn't just I know we saw Colorado go and win 1-0 there a few weeks ago, but Portland just haven't been the same team at home as they often are. They've lost to Minnesota, they've drawn with Cincinnati and Real Salt Lake. They've actually been a better away team than home.
When did Blanco blow out his knee?
About halfway through the season.
So I was wondering if their form or any of whatever you're talking about is related to him specifically.
He blew his knee out just after MLS is back.
Oh, was it? It was that long ago? I couldn't remember how long ago it had been. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but he was on the league MVP season up until that happened.
Well, then they went on kind of a good little streak. They won 5 in a row from the middle of September to the middle of October. And then where they, in a row, beat San Jose, they beat Seattle, beat Vancouver, beat the Galaxy, and then beat San Jose again. Again, not a murderer's row, obviously. But then they lost to Salt Lake, LAFC, and then drew LAFC and Seattle before finishing the season 2-1-1.
The funny thing is, what preceded that 5-game winning streak was a 4-game homestand where they only won one of them. They just maybe it's just Providence Park's lost its luster without fans, which is something that Jimmy Mara said in the week. But I don't know. I mean, the big thing for Dallas is this going to be like FC Dallas, the FC Dallas that went to Seattle last year, or the FC Dallas that went to Minnesota? I mean, I was looking at figure out. I'm sure we'll cover like the key to it at some point.
Do you have one particular matchup in the game that you're looking forward to, Dan, in terms of what you think will be the really important in terms of a person-on-person matchup?
Probably Valeri and Thiago Santos. Should be, Santos is obviously the shutdown guy, and the key to everything is shut down Valeri. So that that's going to be the big matchup. I think that we'll need to see.
And here in the run sheet, Buzz, that you provided us, it says here in big letters, "Ask me about the key to the game."
It does not say that.
It's like in big quotation marks, and there's some arrows drawing and some stars around it. So
how did you highlight it in black and white text? That's weird.
Yeah. Well, he actually hand wrote all of it and then scanned it and then took a picture of it with his phone and then emailed it to me using a Facebook link.
Yeah. I don't think that's in the group chat, that one. Well, the answer to that question is Jesus Ferreira. That's the key. Because
don't say that.
I know. But that's the key, right? Think about how much better over the last, I don't know, was it 4 games or so, where Jesus all of a sudden was making those penetrating runs into the box and getting in there as a second striker, underneath Hara or off Hara, however you want to call it. And that creates a one-on-one matchup for Hara. It creates a one-on-one matchup with Jesus. Now there's activity in the box. Now there's people happening in the box. Now it's not the same level as Hara. It's slightly withdrawn so that there's a drop-off there for somebody to finish from inside the box, but not all the way on the super deep line. So that's the key. Because that action, even if Jesus can only do it for 60 minutes or so, that action makes the FC Dallas clearly better. It makes them more efficient shooters. It makes the goal scoring opportunities better. And so if you can do that, if he can do that, then you have a chance to get through maybe 60, 70 minutes and be even or even get a goal and try and take a lead. And then you can, when he'll run out of gas at that same mark as he always does, and then you can bring him off and you can bring on Acosta, or you can bring on Tessman, or you bring on Fafa Pico and then high press, and move Ryan back perhaps, or go to your 4-5-1. You can then mix things up and try and kill the game. So that's clearly the strategy, and the entire strategy is totally reliant on Jesus having a good game like he did over the last 3 or 4. Again, not including the Minnesota game where everybody crapped the bed.
Yeah, and am I being a jerk for saying that Jesus having a good game is somewhat relative?
Yeah, well, of course. I mean, he's not had a great year. I just mean relative to the season. He has to play like he did over the last stretch and not like he did over the first 2/3 of the season. If he plays like he did over the first 2/3 of the season, he'll get yanked at halftime, and Dallas will be down a couple of goals probably already by that point. He's got to perform, and he's the key thing. He's the guy that's variable. Everybody else is pretty consistent. He's the guy that's up and down. So if he comes and plays this top game, then I think Dallas has got a chance.
It's funny that you say that Jesus is the key to the game, because I've been thinking a lot about Jesus this week with the U.S. men's national team playing and everybody getting super excited about this new generation of players and the games against Panama and Wales and all of that stuff. And what I've been reading online a lot is, many of these new and young up-and-coming national team pundits, whether they be online or whatever form of media you choose, a lot of them keep referring to Jesus Ferreira's performance with the national team last year when he went to the camp, and him playing this number 9 position and how well he played it. And I even saw a guy throw out some clips of his games and Jesus looking really good. And I just keep thinking to myself, what happened to that Jesus? And assuming the fact that, because I don't remember this performance that everybody's lauding for the national team, and I don't know, and maybe I missed it, or I'm getting old, I forget things. And let's just assume that's correct. What happened to that Jesus? How have we gotten to this point?
Well, you remember last year he started off as the wing, but then at one point took over as the 9, and had a pretty decent season and led Dallas in scoring. And he carried that form into the national team. And what I remember specifically was I remember that Bearhalter commenting, I think it was Bearhalter commenting that Jesus had a really good camp and that he was going to get a chance to play. And I think a lot of people are feeding off of that, Bearhalter saying that. And when you combine that with him having led the team in scoring, people are like, oh, he's a great player. People say that without having watched. Well, then you come into this year, and at the back end of last season, Cobra started performing and took over the 9 job. And you remember Paxton got hurt, and so they dropped Jesus back to the 10, and then he did very little scoring after that. And that carried over into this season. With Paxton hurt, Jesus has been an attacking midfielder the whole season. So what happened to that guy is that he played a different position, and he played some wing, and he played some false wing, and he played some 9, and he's just been bouncing all over the place, and it's hard to get any consistent form. And I like to talk a lot about competition. If you're not competing week to week in training, if you're just walking into the lineup, then there's no opportunity, no pressure on you, and you're just coasting along, and so you don't progress. And then the last thing, of course, is that we know he had COVID. So, it's a chance that he's being impacted by that. I mean, the team will never admit it, but, we watch his fitness level where he craps out at 60 minutes every time. And there's a whole bunch of reasons why he's gone to crap over the course of this season. I don't think anyone would tell you that he's had a good season. I mean, he might, but if you got Lucci to be honest, I don't think Lucci would say he's had a good season. So it's just a confluence of events. And you could even include he got a big fat contract, and so he feels really comfortable. Mm-hmm. All those things combine in a guy who's 19, 20 years old to make for a bad season.
So considering, looking at that list of the previous 24 seasons and how, in the years that the team has qualified for the playoffs have come to an end, and thinking back to Lucci's first playoff experience in Seattle, do we feel like Dallas actually puts up a fight this weekend and makes it a game, or do you have any sense of how you think this game's going to play out? Dan, I'll start with you.
I think when you look around and MLS are putting out their previews and not talking about, and they're talking about, LAFC, Seattle, and Portland are all kind of like kill each other. The Athletic did theirs and actually didn't mention FC Dallas at all. Like, FC Dallas was not in that article once.
I noticed that.
The players see that kind of stuff and they do genuinely get pissed, and I'm sure that they'll see that it's a foregone conclusion, and and wanna bloody some noses.
I was reading an article at MLS where it was somebody reporting on, I'm assuming it was Lucci's media call, and they had written out one of Lucci's now infamously lengthy responses about the fact that everybody's just assuming Portland's going to win this game. And I obviously didn't hear it. I'm just kind of reading it, and it's one of those meandering, wandering, it starts really strong and it ends very confusingly kind of responses that we get from Lucci. What I wondered as I read this was, did he have any kind of attitude or tone, or does he seem annoyed or angry or fired up, or is it just kind of this monotone robot response?
Well, no,
assuming either one of you heard this.
Yeah, no, I heard. We both did. He was a little perturbed at that question. I mean, not the question. When he was giving the answer, he was a little bit perturbed. I mean, everyone's just assumes that Portland's already won was pretty snarky, as far as he goes. Now, then he gets a little meandery at the end, but that's just the way Lucci does. He definitely has a chip on his shoulder in terms of everyone writing the team off. But to be fair, Lucci, you guys have won 2 games on the road all year. So don't be surprised everyone's writing you off.
I mean, I think there's a little bit of context to it as well, because it was kind of like, you could almost hear him smirk while he said it. But this was a call, FC Dallas calls aren't the most popular media calls. The degree makes up most of it. It was a question asked by...
And just to pull the curtain back, that means 2 of you are on the call.
Well, Nico, often.
Oh, yeah. Nico. Okay, 3. Sorry.
But, this is a question asked by an MLS editor, and they put a different one on every week who asks the same vague questions, which we know Lucci doesn't like. He doesn't like it when people don't take a vested interest. There were the entire broadcast team for Portland, a writer for a newspaper a sportscaster in Bend, Oregon, or Eugene, Oregon, one of them. There were more Portland people and non-FC Dallas than there were FC Dallas, and that's an environment, as we found out with MLS's back and everything else, he does not like at all, and he will be really snarky, which is fine. I totally support that, but it's sometimes then he'll say something that you can read a little bit too much into. Well,
I'm hoping that chip on the shoulder means mentality, because as we talked about the last couple of weeks of the season, with this team on the road, mentality is everything. If they go in with that Nashville mentality, then they got a shot. If they go in with the Minnesota mentality, they're screwed. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it will be interesting to see if they come out flat or if they come out fired up, and if they come out fired up in the first half, how they come out at the beginning of the second half, because that's one of the really weird identity issues this team has had under Lucci, is his ability to get this team to consistently show up, even within the same game, with the right attitude at the start of the second half. So, that'll definitely be something to keep an eye on. And if there was ever a time to catch Portland in a trap game, this is it, because they don't have their fans and they don't have Blanco, and it would be a huge notch in Lucci's belt if he can pull off a win in Portland. But as you said, Buzz, you can't blame anybody for predicting that the Timbers are going to win this game.
No, I mean, the Timbers are built to do this, right? They won the MLS Backers tournament. They always are not the top of the conference. They're always like in the top sort of part of it, and then they turn it on for the playoffs. This is what they do, So it's like it's no question that they should feel like they're going to automatically win, and it's not going to be surprised at all if they're looking ahead to the next matchup. So, 100% is a trap game if Dallas can spring the trap, if they can bring the right mentality and come out swinging. And you're right about the second half too, because that was also one of the problems in Minnesota, was the second half was abysmal. So was.
I think even looking at Portland, you just have to look at it. One of the common complaints about FC Dallas is not spending money, and I think what the record transfer is like $2.5 million. Well, Portland bought two players each for $1 million more than that in the offseason. They spent like $10 million overall. And they came in with the best attacking line that the league has, with Niasgoda and everyone else. And suddenly they're without a few of those. If they do get Mora back, obviously that's a massive deal for them. But there is absolutely no reason to say that FC Dallas is a favourite. It's just as we're trying to sort of portray, I guess, the problem that, as far as like FC Dallas is they're just not getting talked about at all. Not as an underdog, but just they're already out of it, which should hopefully piss them off and get them all riled up for the game.
All right. I will save my request for your predictions to the end of the podcast, and that's a professional broadcaster's trick to get people to listen to the whole damn show.
Tease.
We'll fast forward.
Yeah, so Buzz here, next to smiley faces and some other stars that you doodled on the run sheet, it says FCD. Are we really going to award people awards already before we even see how the season ends, huh?
Awards are always done on the regular season.
Okay, so we first on the list is most valuable person or player, I guess, probably more appropriately.
Probably player.
Who is your MVP of the 2020 FC Dallas season?
I'm going with Ryan Hollingshead because of his leadership, emotional leadership of the team. He might as well be captain, and then also his. Over the back half of the season, he was the only one scoring goals, and in particular game-winning goals. And a lot of the team's offense is completely predicated on the outside backs attacking. So Ryan Hollingshead is my MVP.
Dan, who's your MVP?
I'm going to go with good old Matty Hedges. We saw that one game without him, just how bad this team can be and how much they do rely on him.
Yeah, I think I'm going to lean more towards Dan's Matt Hedges vote, because I agree. I get where you're coming from, Buzz. If there's one, I think the team can do okay without Ryan, but man, the wheels start flying off in every direction when Matt is not in the side. So if by the standard definition of MVP, I will also go with Matt Hedges. All right. And I think this will probably also then be a unanimous, or this will then now be a unanimous one, Defender of the Year.
You want me to go first again?
No, I'll let Dan go first. How about this time?
Effing legend, Matt Hedges.
Okay. Buzz?
I got Jimmy Maurer, actually. Jimmy Maurer, stepped into the lurch when Jesse had his difficulties. Let's call him that. And a lot of people were writing Jimmy Maurer off as not a very good keeper. I thought he was a pretty good keeper. And all he did was lead the league in goals against and save percentage. That's a hell of a season. In fact, he's only the second keeper in FC Dallas history to have a goals against below 1. So Jimmy Maurer is my defensive MVP.
Yeah, I will agree that Jimmy Maurer probably deserves Defender of the Year. And it does make me wonder where this team would be if Jesse was still the starting goalkeeper, if it would be better or worse, about the same. I don't know where I sit on that at this point, because to be honest with you, I don't even remember how well Jesse was playing before he got, S-canned from the team.
I think you have to admit that Jesse, on the individual skills of a goalkeeper, has a stronger set of individual skills than Jimmy Maurer. But Jimmy Maurer is more experienced and is a better communicator, and he makes the entire defense better. Without question, I think that's true.
Yeah, I would say, and we've talked about this before, I do have the sense that the back four just kind of runs at a more calm state than it did when Jesse was back there, which is all about communication and all that stuff. Okay.
I mean, Jimmy Maurer was offered on the media call this week, and Jimmy actually said he thinks that goalkeeping is 98% mental. I think he said 98. That's by far the biggest equation of it, and that he always considered himself to be in the mix and competitive and works his tail off to be ready. And then if he got to play, great. If he didn't get to play, then support the guy that did. So, good leader. He's a terrific leader, Jimmy, in the locker room. He's the team's union representative. Everyone looks at him almost like he's a coach in a lot of ways. The young kids do. So that's it for me.
What's his contract status?
He's up, I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
That's one. Now, is there an option? Maybe, but older players very rarely have options. So I'm pretty sure he's actually out of contract, as best as I could tell with some Googling. And so I think they're going to have to give him a new deal and probably give him a pay raise now that he's the guy.
Yeah, I was sitting here just looking up. He's on 127,500.
Yeah, I mean, that's, as a starter, he'll probably need to be up more like 250, 300.
Yeah. Well, considering Jesse was getting 231,500.
Yeah.
When you think when Hartman and Seitz were, when Raul and Seitz were competing, Seitz was getting 250 as the backup.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that pans out. I do wonder. I guess a lot of that will depend on what happens with the Philippe situation and how much they're driven by trying to grow the business of selling Philippe moving forward. Let's see. So next on the list would be Young Player of the Year. Now, this is an interesting one. Buzz, who is your FC Dallas Young Player of the Year?
Well, this one maybe also get some different answers from people. I went with Tanner Tessman, actually, because Tanner was the player who's been in the mix as a starter or a key player off the bench for the entire season. He's been a solid component as a 6 or an 8. He's played above himself. He's moved in the pecking order ahead of Brandon Cervania. He's gotten to where he's even competing with Brian Acosta, and he can quite frequently start and does a really terrific job in that position, all at 18 years of age. So my Young Player of the Year is Tessman.
Dan?
I'm just going to go with the basis of Young Player of the Year being like the MVP with a qualifier of being young, and say Big Bad Brian.
Okay. I understand both of those, and I the only reason why I'm going to agree with Buzz on Tessman is just because of his consistency over the period of the year. We didn't get to see Brian until the end, and also because Brian's probably going to win the award for me on the next one, which is Most Improved and/or Breakout Player. And I'll just go ahead and say I will go ahead and give that to Brian Reynolds, since it's likely we may only see him one more time.
Yeah.
Before he goes on to bigger and better things.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Brian Reynolds as Breakout Player of the Year as well.
I'm a differ a little bit, and it's probably not true breakout, but I would like to say on a more national scale, Jimmy Mauer, just going from people saying, "Oh no, Jesse, this team's doomed," to, well, he actually got robbed for goalkeeper of the year. Let's be honest, because he had the two important stats that he was the stat leader of, and but doesn't play for a fashionable team. So
good shout.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna ask, and this is not on the run sheet, and it's not handwritten in crayon by Buzz.
Dangerous.
I'm gonna throw this in here and ask you, and I don't even know what to call this. I don't know if it's your just personal favorite or you just I just want to give this guy an award, but I'll explain it this way. Mine, whatever we want to call this, is Thiago Santos, who is a new to the team and showed up and is filling a role that by a player who I really loved in Carlos Grasso, and I still think this team misses greatly. But I thought Thiago Santos, by and large, surprised me in his qualities and his effort and his kind of drive on the field. And I think he's been a good signing and tends to give me hope that Zanata knows what he's doing. And I'm interested to see how well he plays next season for this club. So whatever we want to call this award, I'm awarding it to Thiago Santos. Dan?
I mean, that's a good question. I thought Thiago Santos was a good shout for at least, to at least be a finalist for newcomer of the year for the league. He's
But nobody else on the team that you just really like to watch play, or you feel like you have a special place in your heart for, that maybe wouldn't have fit in any of these other award categories that you want to give an award to?
Oh, that's tough. Nope.
No? Okay. Buzz, do you got anybody that fits that role?
Well, if that's the category, then I'm going to go with Matt Hedges. For all the reasons that you guys cited, as he should be in the mix for Defender of the Year and MVP and that kind of stuff. I think that Matt Hedges' intangibles are through the roof. I think even at the late stage of his career, and it is late stage, that his ability, the work he put in to raise his passing ability, particularly his long pass ability, is remarkable. To improve and progress at this point in your career is remarkable. His leadership, even though it's a quiet leadership, he's not a vocal guy, but his leadership is immense and invaluable. So that's for me. If I can throw in a player you're most looking forward to next year, that's Ricarte.
You didn't say Thomas Roberts, and that's disappointing to all the pod listeners.
Well, Thomas Roberts doesn't play for FC Dallas. He plays for North Texas SC. So.
Well, goodness, Buzz, if you tell me Thomas Roberts, if he's still in Dallas, isn't on the senior team by next year, we've got a problem, don't we, sir?
I mean, I don't know. There's a log jam at the sort of spots he plays, and
Well, I didn't say he'd be starting, but I hope he's at least on the 18 on a regular basis and coming in and getting some minutes next season.
Well, no, I think he's going to be on loan. I think he won't be here. I think he'll be gone.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think this thing he's doing in Scotland. He just came out of quarantine end of yesterday, so today probably was his first training. So, this opportunity there, or if he's got some other things lined up, I think coming where he's going to try and get on as a loan. The idea is to go somewhere where he's going to play a ton, in Europe or maybe domestically. So I actually think the odds are very, very high that Thomas Roberts won't be on the FC Dallas roster next year. I mean, he'll be one of their players, but that's not the same thing.
And we haven't, because they stopped. The club stopped sending me, and I don't see anybody doing it anywhere else. We don't know what the kit assignments for Sunday's game are. They're not going to do, or will they do red versus green, which is the real problem for the
colorblind derby.
Yeah, the colorblind derby.
I mean, Portland will be in green certainly. So I don't know whether they'll let Dallas go in there.
Well, they've done it before, so I mean, I just don't know how that'll play out. It looks great when they do red, green versus red, but I also appreciate that it creates a problem for a lot of people.
I feel like they've realized that and maybe tried to go away from that, but it'll just depend on how much FC Dallas wants to try and sell some white kits at the very end. Because remember, there's a new road kit next year, so this will be if they don't wear it this game, then you'll never see it again. Well, preseason next year maybe.
Yes. All right, so we will set FC Dallas stuff aside for the time being, and we'll do, again, predictions before we end this. The other stuff that happened this week are off-the-field, items to talk about, and it kind of falls into our wheelhouse because these are the kind of things that we all love to, discuss and debate and punch each other in the arm over. And I'll start with and it's also interesting because this all happened in the same week, which is related to now the two other MLS teams in the great state of Texas. First up, the Houston Dynamo rebrand. I don't even know who wants to go with this first. Buzz, what do you think about this new look?
Well, I don't think that their old logo was particularly good. So, if they want to redo their logo, that's fine. Teams try to do that every once in a while. What I like about it is I actually like this hexagon shape because it's different than pretty much anyone else is doing. So, you can have it on the ball and all that kind of stuff. So I like that part. The rest of it is kind of, it doesn't look particularly soccery to me in that sense. It looks more like a baseball logo or a basketball logo for some reason. I don't know whether it's because it's just those letters overlocking like you might see on a baseball hat, so that's kind of, it kind of feels like it was done by somebody that doesn't get soccer per se. So that's a weird mix of response, I know, but I did like the hexagon part for uniqueness.
Dan, convince me that whoever did the two graphics, because it's both the Dynamo and their women's team, the Dash, at the bottom of the icon, each features a little, or on both brands, because they're different from each other, there's a little icon embedded at the bottom. Dan, I need you to convince me that somebody just didn't rip off the same emoji and stick it on there, because it looks exactly like the lightning bolt and the four-pointed star emoji on any given smartphone, if you haven't seen it.
That's because that's exactly what it is. They were like, oh my God, I've got a bit of dead space. What do I do with it? It's like the weird slanted star on the North Texas SC logo. It just doesn't belong there.
Yeah, it is a little strange. You're kind of into the graphic thing, Dan. What do you think of these new designs?
It's terrible. If you took Dynamo FC off it, you would think that Home Depot released a range of beer mats.
I hadn't thought of it that way.
Wait, beer mats, is that British for coasters? Like table coasters?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, like the crappy cardboard ones you get.
Yeah.
It's just I found it funny. A Dynamo fan said, "What does when they said, oh, the hexagon represents the 6 wards of Houston," and the Dynamo fans' comeback was, "Are you sure it doesn't represent missing the playoffs 6 of the last 7 years?"
Wow.
From a Dynamo fan of all people, it's just. It's putting lipstick on a pig, polishing a turd, whatever you want to call it, and it really reflects on FC Dallas because you get some people who are like, change the logo, move the team downtown, that'll fix everything. Well, Houston changed their logo from I don't think it was a particularly nice logo. I think the color scheme was kind of off anyway, but it was one of the few logos.
You mean
in
the
MLS,
old one or the current one?
The old one.
Yeah.
But it was one of the few logos in American soccer in general. If you see it from far away, you know instantly what it is, and that's important.
The only weird thing I noticed was they took away the blue from Houston Dynamo, and left it only for the dash. So to me, you're going to get a double down on all black everything with Houston.
The thing that I find really interesting is that there's a larger thing going on here with the ownership group, which is they're clearly trying to get away from the nicknames, and I think they're trying to rebrand this thing in the very generic, now super common FC, because if you look at both the Dash and the Dynamo logos, and by the way, the Dash logo is not great, but it's infinitely better than the Dynamo logo. The use of the nickname is written in the tiniest of letters. You almost like both logos are hard to read at any distance to begin with. But if you get far back from either one of them, you have no idea what the nickname is until you get right up on it. But it's pretty clear to me that they're trying to move away. And I wondered at some point, were they this far away from just saying we're calling this whole club now Houston FC?
They've made a concerted effort to be more about Houston than a club. They keep doing about the hold it down H-Town, whatever the hell that means. And they had the Astros looking away jersey a couple of years ago. Now, I think they're trying to appeal less to soccer fans and just more to people from Houston in general, which is just so ironic between that and the rebrand as a whole, because Houston fans stopped going because the team, for one, they weren't really spending in effective areas. It was like, hey, let's just grab a name, like some name that doesn't actually bring anything to the team, and then they weren't engaging the Hispanic markets, and they weren't working with the supporters groups, and they weren't providing a good game day experience for general fans, and people just started going away. All things that we could say about FC Dallas. And it's again, hey, look, we've just got James Harden to buy in because he's all about the city. Well, he's off. He's asked for a trade. He's not signing a new contract. And
I hadn't even thought about that, but
Me too,
you're
I
right.
forgot. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Everything is a branding exercise, when a branding exercise is the one thing they don't need.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think the Dynamo logo was great, but it wasn't terrible, and it was easily readable, and you knew what it was. Okay, yeah, it had a cliche soccer ball in it, whatever.
I thought the dash was the best logo in NWSL as well.
Yeah, and I've never been one to really dislike the jersey designs for Houston. I think it's a little silly that they wear black in Houston on occasion. That seems a little weird to me, but that's their choice. And again, we've talked about this endlessly. They have the stadium location and setup that everybody in Dallas probably, dreams of, because it ostensibly sits in the exact same geographical location as where Deep Ellum does to Dallas. So, could you imagine having an FC Dallas stadium in Deep Ellum? Oh my gosh, everybody die over that.
And still not go.
And there's a train stop out in front of the place, But then again, because they don't do all the other things, the game day experience, the roster, the connectivity, the community building, they don't do any of that stuff any better or worse than Dallas does, and they have really crummy attendance. So putting lipstick on a pig, as you said, Dan, is perfectly said, because I just don't know how this, unless they've got a bunch of other stuff they're going to roll out between now and next season, I don't know how they think any of this is going to help their situation.
Well, it's the opposite of what Sporting Kansas City has done, which is, they're up in the suburbs, and yet they've done a lot of good rollouts in their community and made themselves part of the community, and they do amazing attendance. So, it's execution, it's not location.
And that was the thing, a big part of SKC was the rebrand, but it was what went with the rebrand that made the impression, not the rebrand itself. They could still be the Kansas City Wizards playing a different shade of blue, and, if the Sporting group came in and did what they did, that stadium would still be packed.
Oh, yeah, let's all be honest. When we found out and heard the announcement that they had changed the name to Sporting Kansas City, we all looked at each other and rolled our eyes and went, oh my God, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And then we saw all the other things they did, and we all forgot about how stupid the naming direction or naming choice was. Yeah,
in the end, it's how you perform around whatever you're doing. It's like it's not just, hey, here's a new brand. Like the Chicago guys are finding out the same thing. You can't just throw some new logo out there and not change everything on the field, not change your experience, not change the way you're promoting, not change everything. You can't just do a tiny little thing and have it be effective. It's got to be an entire big procedure.
Well, that's a perfect segue to the second item that happened this week, which was the rollout of the new Austin FC jerseys, which is a green and black vertical stripes. I kind of like, other than one little item that I'll talk about here in a second, I thought overall, and along with all the ancillary marketing and social media they rolled out this week, I thought Austin hit it out of the park.
Yeah, that's a perfect example of they've done everything right, other than the way they got the team. Let's not get into that again. They've done everything right in terms of their marketing and their rollout. They have a big, fancy celebrity who's the face of their franchise. They have great marketing. They have, I think, a fantastic logo that ties into the local area. They've gotten people to buy in from the supporter side early. They've done all the marketing, all the splash. And then I assumed, of course, that they were going to have just a regular old black uniform with some green trim, and the thing that we were, us soccer people were wanting was somebody to go with green. Like there's multiple green and black striped teams in the world that all have pretty great uniforms. And I thought there was no way they were going to do something that cool. And so from a macro perspective, which is what I care about with the uniforms, from the top of the stands, from on TV, can you instantly tell what it is? It's a part of your brand. The green and black stripes is a perfect decision. Somebody that gets soccer is involved with that product, and they continue to kill it in every way possible. Well, we'll see what happens on the field. But in terms of their rollout and their launch, they're killing it in every way possible.
Dan, you are the super kit nerd, and you're the one that understands all the details about Adidas's templates and so forth. I have been working under the assumption, and that was somewhat backed up by some of the quotes and stuff I read, that this was like other first-year teams, a product that got rolled out kind of quickly and working off an existing Adidas template. You're saying no, that in fact what we're seeing now is the byproduct of a full and standard MLS Adidas 2-year cycle product development.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, honestly, most of the expansion teams of late have been too. Nashville, although they went with a very plain thing, that was their decision to go with a very plain thing because that went with their USL look.
They just like to look plain.
Yeah,
just plain.
basically. Right. They wanted to identify as with the gold color, and that's how they did it. The last one I think that didn't was Cincinnati, and they wore those weird team wear jerseys. A big giveaway with Austin is they have that tailored bottom that all the MLS authentic jerseys have. They get like the plasticky logos, all that fun stuff. That comes with the full design cycle, and yeah, they. I mean, I definitely get you don't want to have just green because there's 2 teams in the league that are just green. My problem with green and black stripes, and maybe this is a British thing more than anything. Every single school league, pub league, whatever, has a team in green and black, and they are crap normally. They just buy them because they're the cheapest kits you can buy because no big teams play in black and green. You've got Sassuolo in Italy who play in those really thin stripes, which, I mean, up until a year and a half ago, no one had ever heard of that. And there's a new team in Australia that play in it too.
Well, the key to making it all work, Dan, will be what kind of combination of shorts and socks they put with it.
Yes.
Yeah, because they could really screw it up if they don't do a good job with the entire kit and uniform, not just the jersey itself.
Yeah, if they stick them in black shorts and socks, it's going to look pretty amateur. But if they stick them in white shorts and white socks, that's going to look kick-ass.
Yeah, the white shorts will be the key because then you could even throw, you could mix up the socks with it depending on who you're playing.
Right.
Black or green or white. It's the white shorts that'll make the top. Like AC Milan, if you want to go look up a dark striped top team with white shorts, terrific.
So I do have one thing to contend about what Buzz said about knocking it out of the park with everything. And I think they're doing what Houston's doing. They're appealing to all the casuals. Where they're actually breaking in the market is around the domain, like the little hipster area where the stadium is. Other than the old Austin FC guys, Austin Aztecs guys, they're not really breaking into like the actual soccer market in Austin. Those people are still just kind of sitting there watching European leagues. I mean, I guess like Houston and like Dallas.
What do you mean they're not breaking into? They're not like making an attempt to reach out to those communities, or
I don't know if it's so much. I don't know how much of it falls on their efforts or just the people in Austin. Everything about Austin, how Austin got that team, goes against Austin, right?
The laws of nature. Yes, I agree.
Well, yeah.
Yes.
So there's a lot of people who are like, no, if I'm either not going to watch MLS or I'm not going to watch that. Which is kind of their problem. So they're going more on, they're trying to like turn people into soccer fans and by proxy Austin FC fans, which this is what FC Dallas has been trying to do with soccer mums for years. It just doesn't translate to a support that wants to spend a lot of dollar on your product. Well, New York City found out like 2 years. They went from like crazy attendances to 15,000 people in the stands.
Yeah, well, some of that has to do with the oddity of the game day experience in the Bronx in a baseball stadium. I think that's a lot of it, frankly. But I mean, by and large, everything they've done is a big deal. I'm dying to know how much they're paying Matthew McConaughey to be the face of the team and the voice of the team.
I mean, he loves the sport, so he probably
isn't he an owner?
They probably aren't.
Yeah, does he love the sport, or does he love getting paid to be the face of these things?
Isn't he an owner?
He's supposed to be a minority owner.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, maybe he'll turn out to be a legitimate soccer fan. I don't know.
He is. I mean, he's a big... he's always followed Pulisic, and he's appeared in so many random games in England before, so...
Okay.
Don't see why not.
I have something about him, actually, that I wanted to ask you guys. You know that commercial he does that's for the league when for the 25th anniversary? Do you know
I hate
what
that they play
about?
that before every game because it's really annoying hearing it over and over again.
Right. So what I want to ask you is, does it sound to me like whoever made that promo did not know that the North American Soccer League was a thing? Because he says for the new North American Soccer, and then it's a cut. And I guarantee you that when they shot it, he says there's for the new North American Soccer League in 1996 as they were launching MLS, right? Do you know what I'm talking about?
100%.
I guarantee you that's what the copy was.
His tone,
and they had to cut it afterwards.
His tone when he says soccer, it's not like he's finishing a sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah. I totally agree with you 100%.
Every time I watch it, I'm like, come on, people.
All right, 2 more points about the jersey, and this is the one thing I as I woke up on, was it Thursday or when? No, today's Thursday, so it was Tuesday they dropped it?
Sounds right.
Yeah, woke up and suddenly, the jersey's showing up everywhere online, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, all right, they did stripes, cool, okay, I'm a little surprised they decided to go with stripes. Oh, by the way, they were selling them on the Yeti website. How kick-ass is that partnership?
Yeah,
I mean, holy cow,
cool.
that is unbelievably smart. And they had little vans running around the city selling the shirts, and there were lines of people trying to buy these jerseys. I mean, by and large, everything was going great, and then all of a sudden, I saw it. And once I saw it, I couldn't stop seeing it. It was the defect. It's like when you buy a brand new car and you fall in love with it, and suddenly you realize the panel gap is not right between the A-pillar and the door frame, and now it's all you see when you see it. And it's that little weird tiny green wedge up in the corner of the shoulder between the black stripe and the arm, and it's like, who designed this, and why did they design it with this weird little wedge? It's the same bitch that I have about the Dallas Stars logo, where they designed it, and it's got those weird little star wedges in there that don't make any sense. Why can't you do it? They did it right in the Atlanta jerseys. Why can't you do it right here? And now that's all I see when I see an Austin FC jersey.
It's funny, when you mentioned it in a group, first thing I thought was, well, that's just something that's on striped jerseys, right? Because it's a template, and then depending on the size of the jersey, depends on kind of where the things fall. But going back and looking at Atlanta's actual 5-stripe jersey, which, hey, they ripped off 5 stripes, they really didn't have it. Every single one of them was like sized perfect. Maybe it was just like because of the colors of the fabric from the side, but yeah, it was.
Well, the funny thing is that if you go look at the current Atlanta jersey, which is not 5 stripes, it has its own weird defect where the black and the red kind of come at each other at weird angles where the seam comes together, and it creates this weird little design mess that I had never noticed before. But if you go around and look at striped jerseys, by and large, most people figure out a way not to get this weird little wedge going on in the corner. It's a really stupid detail. It just drives me nuts, and now I can't help but see it. The other thing is...
There's one other defect. They have a completely plain black back, which is going to look even dumber when they eventually have the black shorts and socks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like the black back. I don't like number panels anyway, and I particularly hate the solid black back.
Yeah, I mean, I like the way that like Atlanta does it. They have the partial stripes at the back at least, and then they're obeying the rules, or like how FC Dallas used to have the bottom 2 hoops were still intact. There's ways around it. Just having the plain black really just turns it into a black jersey with 2 big green bars on it.
Well, I kind of wish I just wish it had been green instead of black. Frankly, I just think that would have been more identifiable and been more on brand, especially with all of the Verde branding they do. The fact that half their shirt is black just drives me nuts.
And the fact that Miami came in black jersey, LAFC came in black jersey.
True.
It's like it's the new default for expansion teams.
Well, the other thing about when you have 2 dark colors for your stripes, if you put a white number on that, it's going to be clear as day anyway.
Yeah.
So like that combo doesn't even need a panel.
Yeah, I mean, that's why they don't have to have us around on the Yeti logo. It's so clear.
Right.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point.
Yeah.
And then the other thing about the reveal is how pissed off are the Austin Bold? Because, Buzz, you pointed this out. I had forgotten. Austin Bold jerseys are black and teal stripes, which is like 3 shades off of green.
Yeah, it's a total ripoff. I mean, you could claim it's a ripoff. I mean, I'm sure it's not. But if you're the other team in Austin that was already there, you're like, dude, you ripped us off.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe that's the new thing. Some sort of version of green and black stripes is what everybody in Austin's going to do.
Yeah.
Poor Bold. They should move to Fort Worth.
You know, it got me to thinking, and going back to the Houston rebrand, would if we got word that the Hunts were going to not necessarily change the name, but change the branding, kind of in the same way Houston's doing it with FC Dallas, would we be excited about that at this point?
I would be, because I can't stand the logo. I'm a minority on that one, though. I don't like the FC Dallas logo.
Oh, no, I don't like the logo either.
Yeah.
I never have.
Yeah. I'm okay with the name, and I wish they had stayed red and black, but now that they're not, whatever, red and blue is fine. But I'd be more than happy to get a new logo. I don't like that logo.
Dan, would you have any level of enthusiasm to see them change it up a little bit, modify it?
Not really.
Modernize it?
I think when you change your logo too much, you become a laughing stock for one. Like, you know, Chicago, they could knock out the park, have the best branding in the world, and people were still going to say you had 3 logos in 3 years.
Yeah, I'm with Dan. I don't think I would suggest that they do it. But if they did do it, I wouldn't be upset. I just would, at this point, just stick with what you got.
Well, you know what? To be fair, they did modify the color scheme a couple years ago. I mean, they went from royal blue to the navy blue, and that was an improvement. That's a change that they've made in their brand that I fully endorse. I think the navy is way better than the whatever version of blue it was originally.
Yeah,
but in true FC Dallas style, rather than say, "Hey, royal blue and red is an eyesore," navy blue and red is kind of nice. They went, well, originally, when they rebranded the first time round, the colours matched the flag of Texas. When they changed the shade of blue, it's because we wanted it to match the flag of Texas. So did you just mess up the first time round?
Maybe Texas changed their flag without any of us knowing.
The shade is the same as the blue on the Texas flag.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah. All right. Whatever.
Welcome to FC Dallas fandom.
Yes, year 25. Okay, and then the other kind of weird out-of-the-blue news that popped up this week is that somebody's trying to build an 8,000-seat proper soccer-specific stadium somewhere in the Fort Worth area. And now that's got everybody in a tizzy about what kind of team is going to go there and this, that, and the other. And I don't know. Do we care? I mean, 1, is it ever really going to happen? And 2, do we really care?
Well, we care in the sense that if they put a pro team there, it'll be worth...
well, it's not going to be an MLS team.
No, but we cover pro soccer outside of MLS. I mean,
but is USL going to let them put a team there?
Sure, why not? USL doesn't give a toss about local rights. If for a lower level USL team, if you want to come in with an upper level USL team, they'll just let you stomp all over who's there. The only USL team in Fort Worth, or in the Western whatever, is sort of Irving, not Irving FC, is the one in Grand Prairie. Texas United, thank you. And then North Texas, which belongs to FC Dallas, so they don't care about that one. It's not like you have exclusive rights to a market in the USL. So if USL wants to come in, they also talked about an NWSL team. If you read between the lines of the article, the thing that's interesting to me is that, particularly the one that came out in the morning news today, they need somebody to come in with a pro team and bring in that section of the money. It's the city of Fort Worth. It's the Keller School District, because the thing is right at 35 and whatever that first interchange is up there north of 820. So they still need the pro team part to come in. Well, there's not been anybody with money to make a pro team in Fort Worth ever. Right. Because there's lots of people that want to have a pro team in Fort Worth. Vaqueros, there's some other guys that we know about. None of them have any money. That's the problem. So where are you going to get a team, somebody to drop in this mythical money to make this thing happen and make a pro team happen? Because that's going to be part of running the thing. Even the thing today where it talks about Downey Nelson's group going to run the facility, they're not going to run some team. They need to find a team. So the whole thing is still a gigantic question mark.
Well, this is the thing as well. Like, it's just a guy has made a proposal on the basis of, I hate that I have to drive my kids to Frisco when they have soccer tournaments. There's no team involved. There's no nothing. There's the idea that Donnie and Nelson could get involved. A team isn't going to get involved unless someone with money's involved, and someone with money is not going to get involved unless the team gets involved or the city gets involved or something. And it's just a proposal to a school district right now.
Yeah, it has a very much a feel of much to do about nothing, because everybody talked about, oh, well, the Vaqueros the problem with the Vaqueros is they don't have a stadium that anybody really wants to go watch a game at, right? Like the Vaqueros would be great and be super successful if they had a real place to play. Well, no, that's not necessarily the case, and it's not a chicken or and the egg thing. It's like you got to put all this stuff together from the onset to make it work.
Yeah, the Vaqueros specifically, they don't want to not be Fort Worth. So like the suburbs, if you've talked to any of their leadership people over the last decade, the suburbs are not in play for them. They're the Fort Worth team. That's what they want to be. They don't want to be in Keller. So that's an out. Hitchcock's not wealthy enough to throw down a $20 million on a stadium or whatever it would cost to make an 8,000 seat stadium. That's too big of a stadium for North Texas. North Texas doesn't need 8,000 seats. They need 4,500 seats. So that's twice as expensive as they need. Maybe you're going to find an NWSL team to come in here, but it's like no one's been able to pull that off here already with using something like the Cotton Bowl or FC Dallas's facility, let alone trying to build a stadium. So it's like, I don't know who they think is going to come in and pay for this thing.
Yeah. I guess we'll keep an eye on it. I just don't see...
we'll cover it, but, I'm just not optimistic that it's going to happen.
Yeah, it just the kind of noise that it created this week in terms of people's anticipation about it, or people's opinions. I just thought were all really weird and all over the place. Okay, so as promised, let's finish up our predictions for this weekend's game. The game is on at 9 o'clock. Don't forget, it's late Sunday night. And Dan pointed out to me that Eating Cheez-Its will be our host of that game. Taylor Twellman will be calling the game on Sunday night, 9 o'clock in Portland. So, Dan, I'm going to let you go first. Dan, what is your prediction for Portland v. Dallas in the first round of the 2020 playoffs?
I'm going to go with Dallas. Go with a pretty rough first half. Drop down to 2-0 and then bring it back to 2-1 by the end, and get an early vacation.
I'm going to eat my good luck Cheez-Its, and I'm going to say that that I'm going to buy tomorrow at the store, so I'll be ready. And I'm going to say that the Dallas defensive mentality is going to work, mid-block mentality is going to work, and they will actually go to overtime, but then our good friend Diego Valeri will rise to the occasion once again and win the game for Portland.
Okay. I am going to predict a barn burner of a game that ends up 4-4. Dallas scores first, goes down 3-1, comes back to tie it to make it 4-4. They go to overtime, and then they go to penalty kicks. Dallas is kicking last. They are tied all the way through round 5. And as a late last-minute sub, Reto Ziegler was put in to the 11 because he's so good at penalty kicks. And he steps it up, and he blasts it to the moon, turns around, gives double birds to FC Dallas, and runs out of the stadium, and we never see him again.
I think that's a great prediction, actually.
How long did that take you to write it?
I didn't. I just came up with that off the top of my head. Pretty impressive, huh?
Very.
I'm a high-paid broadcasting professional.
Sorry, I had to turn my mic off there.
Why?
Because I was in the middle of a coughing fit because you made me laugh.
Oh, you should have captured that. That was funny.
I know. I thought it was a great prediction, Peter. I'm excited for it.
All right.
I'm not excited for the nerve-wracking game, but...
Wouldn't it be? Well, here's one of those things. You do wonder. I mean, if you're just looking at the history of FC Dallas, these things never go well, right? They either go haywire in a super bad way, or like they did in Seattle last year, they do something really unexpected and they get everybody's hopes up, and then it all goes flat at the very end. And I don't know which one it's going to be, but after 24 years, I'm just worn to a nub, and I kind of expect the worst, and you hope for the best. And maybe this year will be different, and they'll surprise us and go on an MLS Cup run.
It feels like it's time for a Dallas red card, doesn't it, Peter? It's been a couple of years since a playoff red card.
You're right. That's right.
Portland hasn't had a red card all season, so maybe they'll get one.
Okay, yeah. But we haven't had a Dallas playoff series where somebody does something really stupid and gets a red card like 20 minutes into the game. Was Arturo Alvarez the last one?
In Houston, yeah.
The Houston game? Was that the last playoff red card? Or was it the Bondi red card?
Well, there was the one where is Arturo the same one where Sala punched Hunter Freeman?
Probably, yeah.
I think that was the last one then.
Because the punch came at the end of the game, right?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. I think that was I think Sala's punch of Freeman was a byproduct of frustration that Arturo had gotten a red card earlier in the game.
Yeah.
So
Jesus Ferreira to punch one of the Chara brothers, thinking it's the other one, and gets him off.
That's a good shout. Yeah.
That would be funny. Well, if you haven't seen the aforementioned rundown of all the history of Dallas's playoff results, Buzz, you retweeted it, didn't you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah, it's spectacular.
Yeah, you got to go read. I didn't write it. Just so you know, again, I didn't write it. I found it on a big soccer thread last week, and I asked the author if I could repost it, and he told me I could. So.
Yeah, I mean, considering this club's only missed the playoffs 7 times, there's a whole lot of playoff meltdown in that thing.
Well, it aligns really interestingly with the same as it ever was post that I put up at Third Degree earlier this year that just kind of goes through the facepalm stories from season to season. It kind of parallels that very nicely. Yeah,
what a year of reminders about what a cavalcade of disaster this club is. Your thing, and then now this playoff thing, and on top of all the COVID and everything else. It's just FC Dallas fandom is just always crazy.
Well, it's the 25th anniversary.
That can be a new addition to our preseason predictions. Is what will the shit show be this season?
Yeah. What's this year's meltdown?
What's this year's shitty ending prediction? Right, write that one down, Buzz. Next year when we're doing previews, one of the new entries is, what is the shitty ending to this season going to be?
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Well, Dan, thank you very much for your time today. Excellent work as always, sir.
And thank you for yours.
And Buzz, always, we love big hugs, all that stuff. Happy birthday to your teenage bride. And FC Dallas curious fans, we will speak to you next week, either with a win or a loss, for another episode of Third Degree, the podcast.
Postseason, yeah!
Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast.